Well, we are so grateful to be here. Another credit banking mastermind. This one's called number 23. This is the Michael Jordan of credit banking masterminds.
There you go. That's the way to do it.
So my name is Joseph Smith, and this is my business partner, Ray Fleming. We're the Wise Guys in Ties. We want to thank CJ Wallace and the Velocity Channel for having us here as a guest today. And I want to say extra special shout out and welcome to all of our folks that are participating in our webinar. Hi to Aaron and Kamar. Perfect. All right, so great. We got more people jumping on, saying hi to Dale. All right, perfect. Folks, we're gonna go ahead and get started. I'm gonna go ahead and I need to share my screen. All right, hi to Dale. And my phone is going off. I need to make sure that that stops. All right, perfect. Make sure you silence your phones, right? Folks, we got so much stuff to go over today. It is insane. It's crazy how much we got to go over today. So let's get started. So I'm going to click share screen. And so I click there. Boom. Now you can see my screen. And then I'm going to start my presentation. And then we're waiting for it to do its thing. And then I've got to switch over to my screen number 2. Perfect. Okay, so now you can all see my screen. And today we are talking about credit banking. If I can get this to work. Credit banking. Come on now. You know, it's not actually working right now, but that's okay. I am working. So I'll get that up and running in just a second. But today we're talking about lines versus loans. And I don't know why everything doesn't go according to plan, because it should, and I want it to. And that's why it doesn't. Okay. All right, we'll try that again. Not everything went according to plan, Ray, while you were gone. See, whenever you are not here, I have technical difficulties. Things are not working the way they're supposed to. But folks, let not your heart be troubled. We are coming right at you. We will try that one more time. Boom. And so now we're sharing there. And then I click here. Let me share that. Boom. And we come here. Now, last time I did this, my screen froze up. There we go. Hey, perfect. We are on. Let's do this. Okay, credit banking and the search for the lost American dream. A couple of disclaimers to get out of the way, Mr. Fleming.
I'm not a licensed attorney, accountant, financial advisor, broker, any legal license, or usually I have a license. I'm not in the capacity of to discuss practice, specific counsel, advice, instruction.
All right, moving right along. Do your due diligence, folks. It's on you, not us. Okay, we're going over general information and scope. Thank you. You have a promising career as a future auction marker. My name is Joseph Smith, if you don't already know who I am, and this is Ray Fleming.
Howdy.
We are the Wise Guys in Ties. Wise in the ways of helping you build business credit. Wise in the ways of helping you accomplish a credit banking strategy. So if you want to contact us, our information is on the screen, and we'll put that up later. But so some people are asking, okay, what is this credit banking? Well, let's define it for you. Credit banking uses lines of credit to free up cash flow to transfer highly expensive amortized loan interest into simpler and less expensive forms of interest. This has the effect of radically decreasing the number of loan payments, which reduces the total interest paid and aggressively pays down the principal loan balance in about 1/3 the time. Isn't that awesome? So sticking right along with what is credit banking? So why credit banking? Because it has a rapid debt reduction component to it. It increases your monthly cash flow. It increases your cash availability. It creates financial independence, maximizes your real estate returns if you're a real estate investor, reduces stress,
Wow.
And you become more attractive.
That's right.
You see, when your debts start really going down and your income starts going up and there's more money in the bank, I guarantee you your wife finds you more attractive.
That could be true if that's possible, but yes.
So why doesn't everybody do this? Well, it's a mindset, really. I mean, why doesn't everybody do this? Easy answer is not everybody's heard of it. Those that do don't quite understand it. But let's talk about the mindset, because those who are employees have been taught, if you're a part of the system, you've been to school, you went to school to get good grades so you could go to college to get good grades, to get a job, right? You're in the system, stuck in the matrix, right? The way that you were taught how the world works is you use your cash as your currency. But that creates a cash scarcity mentality, because each and every month you only have this much money in your pie to work with. And as you begin to pay things, the amount in your pie shrinks down. And so you're like, well, what am I going to do? We're running out of money. And you run out of money before you run out of the end of the month. You've heard that expression before many times. Let's talk about a different type of mindset. See, wealthy folks use leverage as their currency, and they use cash to accelerate and grow their wealth, which creates an abundance mentality. See, instead of using your cash as your currency, you're going to use other people's money, known as OPM. If you say it fast, it sounds like opium, but it's not opium. It's other people's money. And when you leverage other people's money and you use that as your currency to pay all of your expenses, you free up your cash, and you can use your cash to accelerate your debt pay down, which again frees up. That's the freeing up of your cash. But what can you do with that? What can you do with all that cash flow that you're growing? And as you expand your lines of credit, what can you do with that? Well, you go out and you buy more of assets, is what you should be buying. Don't buy stuff. Don't buy things that don't pay you back. But go out, and if you're a real estate investor like myself and Ray, go out and buy yourself a rental property, right? Buy something that pays you back just for having it. All right, so let's talk about this. What do you need to get started? What do you need to get started? There's 3 things that are necessary. The 3 ingredients. Anybody know? Throwing it out there.
What do we need to get started, folks?
Bueller? Okay, let's take a look. All right.
Line of credit.
That's right.
Income, says Dale. Aaron says income. Aaron says line of credit. Good job, guys.
Okay, but the number 1 thing that you need is debt.
Oh,
Does anybody have debt?
that's
right?
right.
If you don't have any debt, then this doesn't work, right? So first thing you need is debt. Then, of course, you need cash flow, positive monthly cash flow, which comes from having income, of course, right? That exceeds your monthly expenses, right?
Cash incoming.
Right? And a line of credit is preferable,
Yes.
although you could use a credit card. There are some challenges that are, but as long as you're aware of those challenges, you could use a credit card as well, right?
Absolutely.
Beautiful, perfect. So all of this is, we're defining what is credit banking, what's going on, what do you need, why all of this. So remember, we wanted credit banking for what? What was the purpose of it? It was to help us find the lost American dream. Well, what is the lost American dream? It's financial freedom. Financial freedom, that's what we yearn for. We don't want the chains of these oppressors, right? The financial institutions that they want our money from us. It's already spent before we've even earned it, right? We've experienced that. So, but if we're going to achieve financial freedom, we have to know what that is. Is financial freedom just being debt-free? I mean, you're in the hole, you're negative, and you want to get back to 0. Is that really financial freedom, to get back to 0? You don't owe anybody anything, but you don't have anything at the same time.
Right. That's just a clean slate right there.
So if you get back to 0 without any plan, then what's going to happen?
You're
You're going to go right back down into the
gonna go right back down.
So you need to have a financial freedom goal. Folks, what we're talking about here is a simple equation. Financial freedom happens when your passive income equals your monthly expenses, all right? So that's, getting back to 0. But look, we want to exceed that. So when we take our monthly expenses and we subtract our passive income. So if you have no passive income, right? then this is like, let's take a look. Here's an example. If your expenses are $3,000 and you have zero passive income, then your financial freedom goal is $3,000. But passive, what do we mean by passive income, Ray?
Well, so passive is really where your investments, your ownership in, say, businesses or whatever it is, it's allowing income to come in without you trading your time for money.
Right, exactly. So, and that's exactly right. So if we could have income that's coming in that you don't actively have to work for, and it's at least enough to cover your expenses, now we're talking, right? So when we want to we're trying to talk about credit banking and eliminate debt. A financial freedom goal is, okay, let's eliminate debt, but also let's have enough passive income coming in to cover the expenses so that you are freed up to do whatever God put you on this earth to do. So how do we do that? How do we figure out how to do that? Well, you need to know how much money you need to invest to create the passive income needed to reach your financial freedom goal. And that's another simple calculation, right? We're doing a lot of math today, so I'm getting you ready because we're going to get into even more math than this. But once you know your financial freedom goal, let's say it's 3,000, you need to multiply that by 12. Right? After multiplying by 12, we now know what our annual financial freedom goal is. Then we need to divide by an ROI, our rate of return. But what rate of return do we choose? Well, really, that's going to be whatever you are comfortable with, whatever your risk tolerance level is. Some people feel like when they're young, they're invincible. We can take more risks because if I fail, I can still have plenty of time to bounce back. Some people who are a little bit more seasoned might feel like, well, there are fewer days ahead than there are behind. So maybe I want to be a little bit more conservative in my investing. And so basically with high risk comes high reward. So you would have the higher your ROI is, the more riskier your investments will be. And a lower ROI would mean that you're making safer investments, but they're not paying out as high. So let's take a look at let's look at an example of that. If we took $3,000 as our monthly expenses and we multiplied that by 12, $36,000, right? And then we divide that by 10% as our rate of return. Say we're going to we want all the money that we invest to earn us 10%. Then all you need is $360,000 invested, earning you 10% on that investment a year, and that will equal your financial freedom goal. Pretty simple, right?
Right.
Now, some people say $360,000, that's a lot of money. Well, it could be until you start looking at, if you start talking with financial planners and you start trying to plan for building your nest egg to have the money that you need saved up so that you can, after retirement, how long are you planning to live? Do you want to live for 10 years, 15, 20 years? You want to probably live as long as possible, but you don't want to run out of money before you run out of life, right?
Nowadays, you could easily be looking at 40 years of retirement.
It's possible. And so and again, this is what the whole system that's been set up, the banks, the governments, corporations, they want you putting money into these retirement funds. And what does this do? You're going to build up your nest egg. So you get this egg and you immediately from day one start living in this scarcity mentality because every time you pull something out of the nest egg, right, then there's less there. Now you're going to have somebody say, well, we're going to try and work and invest in that and we want to grow that nest egg to the point where you're just living off of the interest. And if that's the case, how much money do you need to have sitting in your retirement accounts earning you a rate of return that you can live off of? Well, now you're talking millions of dollars. You're talking 3 million.
Yeah.
Look at your expense. If it's like $3,000 was your expenses, you'd need to have like well over 2 million. You need to have over 2 million, right? But what if you want to live with a little bit more? 5,000 a month, 10,000 a month. You could easily need to have $7 million in some retirement account. And people, that's overwhelming to try to achieve because I'm telling you, most people are way behind that. There's not a lot of people who are saving that much money up. And when you start looking at, oh my goodness, this is what they have planned for me. And then you go to retirement and you're living longer because we've got great medicines and the health system. So we're living longer. And now my retirement doesn't look as much. And then I'm hoping that there's Social Security, but then that's not enough. And so we end up living, I mean, we're barely getting by on 40% of our total income in retirement. So let's not follow the plan that was laid out for us, right? The 40-40-40 plan, right? Work 40 years, work for 40 hours a week for 40 years of your life to eventually one day retire on 40% of your income. If you follow this plan that's on your screen, all you need to amass is $360,000. And if you invest that and you earn an average of 10%, in this example, you would cover $3,000 of monthly expenses. So plug in what your expenses are, right, into these formulas. Figure out what your financial freedom goal is. Then you can figure out how much you need to invest, and then you can be set free. The truth will set you free. Mm-hmm. So, Ray, what keeps us from financial freedom?
Usually our own fears. That will keep us from freedom, but also out of control debt.
This presentation follows a theme of Indiana Jones, and if you're thinking, it's sort of like a parable. You, being Indiana Jones, are trying to do everything right. You're trying to get the artifact right that you're seeking. You've been trained, but along the way you were educated, you did everything right, but everything starts crashing in all around you. You're in debt. You've got all these creditors chasing after you, wanting blood, right? That's what ends up happening, but that's not the way it's supposed to be. So if we know out of control debt is the problem and we're looking for the lost American dream, we need a map. Just like the same map that an archaeologist follows to the buried treasure, or a pirate follows the buried treasure. Here's the map that we have put together. And then this is how we've broken down how we discuss credit banking. Each and every week, we are trying to put the pieces together so that we can understand the fullness of this strategy. So last week, we focused on budget, and we really looked for ways to increase income and looked at ways to decrease expenses in an effort to maximize our positive monthly cash flow. Today, we're looking at lines of credit versus loans, and we're really going to look at the interest and how it's calculated and how much it really costs. Next week, we're going to really get into the credit banking strategy. How do we take the cash flow from our budget? How do we use the lines and versus the loans and implement a credit banking strategy? So folks, this is exciting what we're going through. So we're talking about lines versus loans. But before we get to actually talking about the lines versus loans, there's a critical thing that you need to have, right? This is largely based off of, what are we talking about? Let's talk about credit.
Gotta have credit.
What is credit? You were defining credit a moment ago.
Credit is really your relationship with it's your relationship. Credit is a relationship, and financial credit, access to credit, that is your relationship with financial institutions and their friends.
Absolutely. So if we're going to talk about lines or loans, in order to get those, you need to have a few things. You need to have verifiable income. You need to have low debt to income ratio, and you need to have some kind of collateral, depending on the amount borrowed.
Right.
If you're borrowing a small amount, then no collateral. But this is how people get approved for lending through the major banks, right? But what about this? You need a good credit score, right? Verifiable income, low debt to income ratio, collateral. But would you also say you need a good credit score?
Yes, you do.
You do. And what is a credit score? I mean, we look at that, oh, my credit score is 600, my credit score is 700, my credit score is this and that. What is that credit score? What is it for? Right? So many people are like, well, I mean, we seem to worship at the altar of the FICO system. Like, well, you're only a 550. You know, oh my goodness, that person has an 800 credit score. They're amazing. Well, what does that really mean? Your credit score is simply your ticket into, that's it. Meaning you get to go and talk to a lender. You get to start the approval process. It doesn't mean you get approved.
That's a great point, because just because you have good credit doesn't mean you're automatically going to get approved.
Exactly. Because it's the other things listed just before. What if you have a great credit score, but you have no income coming in?
That's a tough situation.
Are you going to get a loan?
No, you're not.
No, right? You could have a great credit score, but you could have a very high debt to income ratio. It's very possible to have a great, I mean, you've leveraged your credit, right? You've done things the right way, but you just have a house, a home mortgage, you have maybe 3 cars, a student loan, right? I mean, you've got all these things. You're leveraged out. Can you get another loan?
No. It's and there's a limit to it on the personal side.
We see this in real estate a lot. Some people they have 5 houses, right, that they've purchased, and all of a sudden they can't get any more lending, but they've made all their payments and everything's going well, but you're leveraged too far.
Yeah, that's that personal cap.
So let's talk about credit. If we break credit down to just what is it, what makes up that score? You need good payment history, low numbers of derogatories. We're talking about if you have been sent to collections, bankruptcies, things like that. We got to have a good credit score. We need to have like none of that or very little of it. We need to have a low number of inquiries. How many times have you applied for new credit? It's all about, volume in versus time. Low utilization. You'll hear utilization. We talk about that all the time. And you need to have a good mix of credit, right? All of those make up your credit score. So then when we start looking at, well, what is your credit score? Let's go check your credit score, right? We're running from all the natives. So you go and you check your credit score, and here's what you see, right? If you go to the Credit Sesame, Credit Karma, right? You're talking credit check total. These are Experian, Equifax, the Vantage, the Trans Risk model, all of these systems. You go and you check your system, you check your credit score. And have you ever noticed when you check your credit score, it never seems to match the credit scores that the lender has? Well, do you realize that they're looking at completely different scoring models? I mean, I've heard it said that just the FICO alone and how it's weighted and all the different ways that it's calculated, because you've got FICO 4, FICO 7, FICO 8, FICO 9. You got all these different models, and then they're weighted for, are you applying for a mortgage? Well, there's the mortgage weighted model. Are you applying for an auto loan? Well, there's an auto weighted mortgage. And so when you check your score, it doesn't match with it. So how do you know what your score is? How do you even know, right? So there's so many different things that are going on. I mean, if you want to look, these are some of the most popular scoring models. So most of the times what people see is like the Vantage model.
Ooh, yeah. Because
the Vantage is supposedly a mixture of Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. But the FICO 8 scoring model is utilized for a lot of loan approvals. So, I mean, just look at that. 35% of the FICO 8 model is your payment history. Do you pay your bills on time? Do you have any derogatories sent to collections? Or do you have a bankruptcy or anything like that in your past, right? Then 30% of that is your credit utilization. 30% of your score is, are you keeping your credit balances under 50%, right? Even better, I mean, where you want to be is anywhere between 1 to 30% utilization. That's
good.
That's good.
Nice.
But once you get over 30, now you're sort of in you're in that wet blanket area of credit. And then once you get over 50%, that's like red alert warning, and credit issuers will run away from you. So then you're looking at your age of accounts. This is 15% of your score. And think about this. Every time you open up a new account, that's why your credit score goes down with that. Because now because it's an average of all your accounts and how long they've been open. And so you might have had one account that's been open for this many years. This account's been open. You open a new account, and now you've got to go, okay, let's add in 0 and do a new average. And now you've brought the average of your accounts down by that.
That's an excellent point, because many times people are like, oh, well, that's because my score went down because of the inquiry. Well, yes, you affected the inquiries, but also the age of accounts.
Yes. So another thing that happens that people do, they think, man, I had this credit card and I listened to some guy on YouTube and he said, once you pay that off, cut it up, just get rid of it. And what does that do? You just like took this account that's been open for a long time and you just completely eliminated your age of accounts right there. So now you'll watch a 15% reduction in your credit score.
Yeah. So I mean,
don't be closing those
don't
accounts.
Close the accounts.
All right, now you have what's called your mix of accounts. The best way to talk about this is imagine two people. So you have someone like me, and you have someone like Ray. Ray is this young guy. He's got 2 credit cards, feeling good about life, but that's it. That's all it's that. You've got me, and I've got, wife and kids to pay for. I've got a home mortgage. I've got 2 auto loans. I've got 3 credit cards. Which one of us, if times get tough, is likely to just walk away, right? Versus, right? Because, I mean, you only got 2 credit cards, right? You don't have anything else. So I look to be more stable. So my mix of accounts shows that I can handle a wide variety of products. I mean, I might have a home mortgage and the auto loan and the credit card, but I might also have a personal line of credit or a home equity line of credit. Overdraft accounts. So all different types of banking products that I am managing and managing well shows that I am more credit worthy. So it's 10% of my score right there. So when you look at how your FICO score is created, the score doesn't matter as much as these factors, because if you take care of these factors, whatever scoring model you're in, you're going to be great. Right? If you pay your bills on time, you keep your balances low on your cards, right? You don't close, your old accounts. Your inquiries. We didn't talk about inquiries though. I'm sorry. Inquiries was that last one there at 10%. Inquiries, there's such a small factor to the score. It's 10% of your score. And they really, when you have an inquiry, if inquiry goes on your account, it mathematically only affects your score for up to 12 months. It can stay on your report for up to 2 years, but the issue with the inquiries is it's all about volume over time.
Oh, yes.
So if I am checking my credit, so I mean, think about this. Ray is a lender, right? And I come into him and I'm like, hey, can I borrow some money? And I filled out your application. Ray starts looking it over and he does a check and he's like, oh, you were just at Wells Fargo last week. Oh, and Bank of America. Oh, and you were also at Chase. Oh, and you also were at the credit union. And he's seen all these inquiries. Now, the inquiry does not tell Ray whether or not I got approved. But think about this. Ray has to make one of 2 assumptions. Either I just got approved for all of that money, and then he's going to come in as the 5th lender in a line, right? Meaning he's behind 5 other people that I'm going to pay first. Or I got 5 denials, right? You don't know. So, and you're thinking about approving me, but what is it that if you got denied, what is it that they know that you don't know? So your inquiries really have to do with you getting approved. That really, they handle the approval process. So as long as everything else looks good and you have, we recommend about no more than 4 inquiries in 6 months. Right, as long as you're right there in that window, then that's something that most lenders will look at and say, you're good to go, right? So we're looking at credit, but these 2 models, because they're so different in how they calculate things, this could be the different. You're looking at the Vantage, or you're looking at one of these models, your Credit Karma. You're like, man, I got this 700 credit score, and you go and you apply to the bank, and they say, well, your credit score is at 650. Come back. You're like 50 points. Could there be a difference of 50 points in the difference?
Oh, yeah, easily.
So don't worry about the score as much as, because as you look, all of these are looking at the same things. All of these things are maybe calculated a little bit differently, but they're all wanting the same thing. So as long as you focus on positive behaviors, then you're going to be fine. So let's talk about how long does it take to build up a good credit score so you can get a credit line or a credit loan?
It takes a long time.
It does. It takes time to build a good credit score. The way in which personal credit is reported and calculated does not allow for building your credit quickly. You must be patient, because if you try to go out there and, let's say I go out there and I get approved for a $500 credit card, and I go apply for another credit card, what are they going to give me? Another $500? And I go and I get all these $500 credit cards. Is anybody going to ever approve me for $5,000? Right? I have to build. If I get a $500 credit card, my focus should be on growing that line of credit. I should be using that card every month, following all of those guidelines we just talked about. And then every 6 months, I should be calling for a credit limit increase or an interest rate reduction or both, right? So, but what if one of the reasons why you can't grow your credit is because you've got some dings, some bumps and some bruises along the way? You need some credit repair. But what is credit repair?
Credit repair. That is, well, it's the process of improving your score through either removal of errors, inaccuracies, or it's having them deleted out.
Yes. And that's a quick process, isn't it? Very fast.
Absolutely not. It takes time.
It's like a letter writing campaign. You just gotta be ready for it. But folks, if you have credit, if you don't, let's say your credit is not where you want it to be. It's maybe south of zero. Okay, there's still hope, right? There's what's called secured lines of credit. There's other ways to build your credit. There's business credit. We love business credit. But regardless, once you have credit and you go out there and you get a loan or you get a line of credit or a credit card, now we need to talk about what we do with that. So let's now transition into talking about those lines of loans. So how did we get here? We have lines versus loans. Well, we need to understand the difference. If you needed to borrow $10,000, would you rather pay 21% interest or 6% interest? So wait a minute, he's trying to trick me, right? Well, if your goal is to pay the least amount of money possible, you would want to choose the smaller number, right? So all things being equal, we would say I would want to choose the 6%, wouldn't you?
Right.
All things being equal, right? Well, it really depends on how it's amortized. So what is amortization?
Ooh, that's really the structure on how it's paid.
Yes, on how you pay back the principal and the interest, right? So let's look at that. We last week went over an average typical two-income American family's numbers that they're pretty common. If you've watched any video on velocity banking, on credit banking, on mortgage sweep strategy, on what's another one? Cash flow banking, right? All of these strategies, they're all very similar. They're all very the same underlying principle. But if you've been watching this, right, you saw that the average two-income American family has a house, has a couple of cars, has a few credit cards. Okay, so this is the average mix. And so you're looking at, so they've got loans of like over $200,000, paying $1,200 a month principal and interest. And they have two auto loans carrying $26,000 of balance with two $300 a month payments, averaging $600 a month. And then we have lines, which that can break down into a lot of things: a personal line of credit, a home equity line of credit. Like when I say home equity, in this case, I might be talking about like a second mortgage, right? A personal line of credit, overdraft accounts, credit cards. That's probably the most common form of credit that we see. And we've noticed that Americans have approximately $15,000 in limits. Two-income American family has about $15,000 in credit limit, but is carrying around a $12,000 balance. And that's at 21% interest, whereas the auto loan and the home mortgage is at about 6% interest. Now, these are just averages pulled from the census, right? We're going to have a new census coming up here, which will give us new numbers, and then all of a sudden we'll have to change all of these numbers.
Right. I mean, interest rates are all-time low right now. So, but what does that actually mean?
What does that mean? At an all-time low? Is
At an all-time low.
Is that good? To me, that tells me inflation's coming. All right. So to help us better understand how everything is calculated in terms of interest is this question, which seems like it has nothing to do with anything. Fresh water at sea level freezes at 32 degrees Fahrenheit or 0 degrees Celsius. Which is it?
Both.
Yes, that fresh water at sea level freezes at 32 degrees Fahrenheit or 0 degrees Celsius. So what happens if we change the temperature to 1 degree Celsius and you compare that to the 32 degrees Fahrenheit? Which temperature is hotter? That should be pretty simple. You would say, well, if before they were equal, when that was 0 and you just increase that by 1, that's now hotter. But now you're saying 1 degree Celsius is hotter than 32 degrees Fahrenheit? That doesn't sound right. Well, then what if we change it? Let's change both of them this time. And let's make it now 21 degrees Fahrenheit versus 6 degrees Celsius. Which temperature is hotter? Well, 32, we started at 32 degrees and we went down to 21. And we started at 0 degrees Celsius and we went up to 6. So the 6 degrees Celsius is hotter. But you know, that is really hard for the eyes to look at. 6 being hot. What does this have to do with anything? Why is the 21 less than 6? Right, as well, it's because they're different scales, right? Now, here's the key point that I'm trying to make here to try and drive this point home. How the interest is to be repaid on a line of credit versus a loan determines how expensive or how hot the interest is. Let's dive into that a little bit more. But wait. One of the things to also help us understand, it's not just the interest rate, but it's also how the interest is being repaid, right? We talked about amortization being how it's repaid, right? Well, part of how it's repaid is this whole concept of one directional loan versus a revolving line of credit. So let's take a look at that for just one moment, please. Let's look at the one directional loan, shall we? Let's bring that over here. One directional loan. What do we mean by one directional? Well, here you are, and there's the bank. Each and every month, you've got to make your loan payment, right? So there's your money. There it goes. Okay, another month came by. There it goes, right? Now, let's just say this is a mortgage. You're making payments on the mortgage, and then all of a sudden, bam, the water heater goes out, and you got to get that thing fixed, and it created some damage. $5,000.
Yikes.
You know, you've been making payments on a while to this bank. You've built up, hopefully, some amount of equity, right?
Yeah.
You're calling up the bank and saying, hey, look, got some problems here with the house. I got to get this fixed. I have no extra cash. Can I get some of the money back that I paid so that I can pay this guy to come out here and fix the hot water heater? What's the bank going to say?
You could come in and apply for a second mortgage if you want.
But I need the money now.
Well, it doesn't work that way.
So you're saying that money never flows, when we're paying on a loan, the money only goes one direction, meaning the bank never returns back any of that money to us?
Nope.
We lose 100% of the buying power of every dollar.
Yep.
So if I'm paying $1,200, it's gone.
It's gone.
It gone.
Not coming back.
Well, but I mean, I'm getting equity.
Right. It's exchanged into equity.
But if I have a high income to debt ratio and a low credit score and my utilization's out of control, but I've got a lot of equity, what can I do with that?
Not too much.
I can't do anything. I have equity.
Right.
I lost my job. I have no income. I've got equity. I need money from the bank. Is the bank going to give me money?
It's all that credit. It's about credit. If you don't have the credit to access
I
it.
lost my job because of things going on in the economy, right? Will the bank let me access my equity now, please?
Nope.
What? What? Oh my goodness. You know how many people get so upset? I mean, there's so many people who are so proud. I've got a lot of equity built up. Yeah. Well, can you use that to buy some bread? Right? I mean, yes, you're building equity, but under only the right circumstances can you even get access to it. So think about that. Let's compare that to revolving lines of credit. Here we go. Now, here you are. Got your credit cards, got your lines of credit, second mortgage, whatever you're paying. So each time, and you know, another thing that's great about a line of credit is you only pay for what you use. On the loan, you have to immediately start paying on all the principal interest on the full balance of it right away throughout the whole amortization schedule. But on a line of credit, you're only paying for what you use. And here's how this works. Look at this. You make your payment on your credit and you get money back. You make another payment every month and you get money back. Now, Ray, have you ever experienced that? Do you pay money on your credit card and get money back?
It comes back in the form of available credit.
Oh, available credit. Okay, so what you're saying then is that available credit, the way you look at it, is the same as money?
It works the same.
Well, what can you what can you buy with credit these days?
Pretty much anything.
Okay, so someone will say, well, you can't pay an auto loan with credit.
Absolutely, you can.
What? No, I called the bank. They said you can't pay with a credit card.
Well, of course. It's if you go to Taco
But you
Bell,
just said that I could.
if you go to Taco Bell asking for a burger, doesn't mean you can't have a burger. You just can't get it that way. You have to go.
You mean they
across
have
the street.
hamburger? They have hamburger at Taco Bell,
They have hamburger meat.
and they have bread and
Yeah.
cheese.
Yeah.
So you have all the ingredients of a burger.
But that's not on the menu.
Ah, I see.
It's not on the menu. That's not what they do. So, but you just have to go to who actually can do that for you.
We talk about that as like going through some type of third-party processor. Now, in terms of how do you get this money back? This whole concept of what are you talking about? Money back? What are you talking about? The best way I've used to describe it is if you go to another country and you have your money in dollars, you have to exchange it for their currency, their funny money, whatever it's called, right? And so there goes your cash, but it's now returned back to you in another form. And there's also an exchange rate that's paid, so you lose a little bit in the transfer, right? So very similar to how credit works. You have a credit card. You've got a payment, right? That payment could be interest only, could be interest and principal, but it's an APR. So here's what's happening on a credit card. Let's say 21% interest. Well, what is that actually APR over the 12 months? If we divide that by 12, 21 divided by 12, you get 1.75.
Right.
All right, 1.75. So money that you have at 21% interest on a credit card, that balance, whatever it is, you're paying 1.75% interest on that balance that you carry over from month to month. Right? That's it. So usually we look at 21% and we're like, that is so outrageous. That's expensive. But what are you really paying month to month? Because it's 21% when you add it up over the whole year, but just in an individual month, it's 1.75%. So if I make a payment, let's say even an overpay. Well, when I make my payment on that card, anything that I went over, right?
Returns.
Let's just not even talk about over. Let's just talk about the payment. I make the payment. 1.75% of that goes to the bank. That's gone, right? But what returns back to me?
The rest of it returns back to you.
In available credit.
Available credit.
It's over 95%. 95%, right? Think about that. So yeah, it's not cash anymore. It's available credit, like Ray said. And where could you go to the grocery store and buy something on credit? If you needed gas, could you go buy it on credit?
Yes.
So, I mean, what if I wanted to buy something on the internet? Could I use credit?
Yes, all day, every day.
It's more liquid than cash. Can you take cash and buy something on the internet? Can I take my dollar and try and push it into my
I
screen?
mean, nowadays cash is really becoming obsolete. I mean, I've seen places lately that don't even take cash.
They don't want the hassle.
Right.
Right. So think about that. Think about that, folks. So now we'll go back to, now that we understand that the interest rates are a little bit different, right? And so somebody will say, well, no, the interest on a loan is the same as the interest on a line. It's still an APR. It's still a simple interest rate. Yes, but let's dive in. Okay, let's take a look. Line of credit interest. What is the formula that we use to calculate the interest payment? So think about this. Amortized. Something is non-amortized. What does that mean? Well, that can mean a lot of things. Typically, most of the time, it means an interest-only loan or an interest-only payment. But it could mean that you deferred payments for the first 6 months or the first 12 months or whatever. I mean, anything that doesn't fit the normal every month you're paying principal and interest, right? An amortization schedule is how the principal and interest is to be repaid back over time. So a non-amortization could be a lot of different things. So in this case, what if you were just making interest-only payments? Well, let's take a look at that. So based off of the numbers that we were looking at, so quite simply, you just take your principal times whatever your interest rate is. So if it's 21%, then that's what you're paying, and you divide that by 12. Like we said, the 21% interest, that would be 1.75% of whatever your balance is. So if your principal balance was 12,000, you would multiply that by 0.21, and then you would take that number and divide it by 12, and that would be your interest-only payments.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. So now, what if now we're actually going to amortize it? And so this is, you got to look at your credit card statements, because this thing can change all the time. They either they're mailing you paper statements, or they are, or they're emailing it to you. But let's say we have a card in this case where they require 3.25% of the principal to be paid down every month. All right.
So this is in that terms and conditions that we all just throw away.
Yes. We just clicked on it and said, yeah, I agree. Make sure you read. Yeah. Okay. I read it. So let's put our numbers in here. So if we have $12,000 times, like I said, the 21% interest, and we take our $12,000 and we have to pay back 3.25% of that every month, how do we calculate what our credit card payment is going to be? Well, once you take 21% interest and you multiply that by the 12,000, as you see here, you get 2,520. Now we're going to divide that by 12, and you'll see that when you take 3.25% of 12,000, you end up with 390. So we know that we need to pay, of this $12,000 balance, we're required to pay at least 390 of the principal down, but then we also have to make the interest payment on it as well. So once we take our 2,520 and we divide that by 12, we get 210. So now we take our 210 in interest and our 390 in principal that we need to pay down, and then that's how we come up with a $600 payment. Make sense?
Yes.
So at this rate, it could take over 28 years to pay off this debt. Now, how is that possible? Because really, if you do the math on it, it's just a little over 2 years. Why would it be over 28 years to pay that off?
Well, I mean, there's many different reasons. One, are we going to stop using the account?
Right. So paying it off in a little over 2 years, like 2 years and 3 months, to pay it off that way, as we're talking about, assumes that there's no change to income and no change to expenses.
Right.
Over 2 years and 3 months.
Right.
What happened over the last few months? Have we noticed any major economic shifts?
Ooh, and I mean, definitely. I mean, there's been a lot of just, I don't know how to describe it, craziness.
Well, think about a lot of people. Yes, craziness. A lot of people have made progress paying down credit, and then all of a sudden they find themselves needing to rack up their credit again. So, and that's life, right? I mean, you might be saying it's crazy now, but if we go, I mean, we can go back and look at, was it crazy in 2008?
It was.
Was it crazy in 2001?
Yeah.
I mean, there's always things that are happening. There's crazy.
Every 8 to 10 years, there's going to be something. I mean, statistically, usually.
And so as you're trying to pay down your debts and then something goes sideways on you, you have to rack it back up. And then you're trying to pay it down and then you got to rack it back up. And then that's, I mean, I could have put any number there. I just put 28 because that looks like, that looks shocking, right? But think about that, folks. So let's talk about a loan. This is the formula to calculate your amortized monthly payment. Now, I mean, I just like to compare and contrast because people say, no, they're both simple interest, right? And you know, they're right, but I look at this formula.
They're right with that little asterisk, like to a certain degree. If
here's the formula we were using on the credit card. That, to me, this is like, this just stretches what I remember from elementary school. Okay, I think I can figure that one out, but I'm telling you, I had to take a whole nother, I had to like brush up on my math here to understand some of this stuff. But let's go through it. Let's look at the math behind this, because this is how we calculate. This is how things are amortized in a loan. It's different. Okay, so if we look at, let's define our terms. A is our amortized monthly payment, with P being our beginning principal, I is going to equal our interest rate, and N is our term, right? That's how many months that we're going to have this loan out. So this is, so here we are with a $200,000 loan, right, at 6% interest for 360 months, right? We have to plug all of this into our formula. So if we look at what is the formula? A equals P times the I divided by 12, that quantity itself divided by 1 minus the quantity 1 plus I divided by 12 to the negative nth power. That's so fun to say. All right, so as we plug our numbers in, we start resolving all the things, resolve things inside brackets and all stuff like that.
Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally.
Oh yes, order of operations.
Yes.
So what we did there, as you can see, is we took 0.06 and we divided that by 12. And then we also added 1 to it. So we got 1.005. All right, great. Now we've got to take that to the negative nth power. So we also divide the point in the numerator. We take 0.06 and we divide that by 12. We also get 0.005. So when we take 1.005 and we raise that to the negative 360th power, we get 0.166. Now we still have to resolve 1 minus 0.166, and that gives us 0.834. Now we have to take 0.005 and divide that by 0.834 to give us 0.006. Now we have to multiply that by our loan amount, our principal, our beginning principal, to figure out what is our loan payment. Our principal and interest payment is going to be $1,200. All right, folks. So here we go. Here's an amortization schedule. If this were to start, right? If we were to start this loan, right, in January. Well, actually, you get the loan in December, but the first payment's due in January, right? That's what this reflects here. So if you can see on your screen, you got original loan amount, $200,000, right? We've got 6% interest, and you can see your payments $1,199.10 each month, every month, right? Just keeps going on and on. Let's look at the whole amortization schedule as it all lines up. That's it. Really simple, but how much total interest is paid? Like, you know, if we go to, you know, each year, it calculates the total per year, and then you could add up all 30 years. Very simple formula. total interest paid over the life of the loan equals your amortized monthly payment times 360 payments.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to subtract out your original principal,
Right.
and that'll give us the interest. So let's plug in our numbers. We have a $1,200 a month payment. We have to make 360 of those, and our original loan amount was $200,000. So we're going to pay over the life of the loan for 30 years, $432,000. And once we subtract out the original $200,000, we know that the total interest paid on the loan is $232,000.
Yikes.
It's a lot of money. But you know, it's only 6%.
It
works out to 6% interest over the life of the full loan. Every 6% every year for 30 years.
If you make every payment perfectly on time, exactly the right amount for 30 years straight without ever making any extra payments or being late.
Right.
Then it will balance out over 30 years to your interest rate.
Right. You guys might have seen this before. This is how the interest on a loan, the way it's amortized, is it's front loaded. We're talking 84% interest on payment one. 84% of the first payment is interest. That's a lot.
It is.
Okay, so, and then as you go through, your principal and interest being equal, that you're paying the exact amount in interest as you are in principal, you don't reach that point until 222 months into the loan.
You're playing against the house here. The house has the upper hand that they're gonna sell you on something.
You want to know the truth of it is, I have no problem with this at all.
I don't either.
I don't have any problem with this if I'm going to live in this house for 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I have no problem with that. But let's look at the reality. What's this line? This line is showing us the 5-year mark after 60 months. Why is that important to show that here?
Because there's one of two things that are going to start to happen at this point.
I wonder what that could be. One,
may have a couple of kids. It may be time to upgrade and get a bigger house.
Yes.
Have some
get a promotion,
yes.
Move. You're in the military, get deployed, move somewhere, right? What else could happen?
That's when you start being targeted by the financial institutions, by your bank. And every single time you walk into your bank, do you know about our excellent interest rates right now? Interest rates are at the all-time low. Why don't you sit down and talk with our banker about our fantastic refinance offers where we can save you a lot of money. And see, there's that little asterisk thing where save you this much money this year in comparison to what you are currently paying to what you could be paying. That reduction is what they're actually selling you as savings. Now, if you actually look at the true savings, you're actually going to, through a refinance, be paying, an extra $50,000, $100,000. So you're actually not saving anything. You're paying a significant amount more.
So, you look at these slopes, right? These are slopes. And so if I were to change my interest rate, it would affect the slopes of these lines. They would slightly change, right? Because the interest would change. And so I would be like, less paying less interest. I'm think of these as like, as you move left to right on your screen, you're running a race. And you're running uphill, and you're running this marathon, and you're 5 miles into it, and you're like, this mountain is just too steep. I want to refinance to the mountain over there. It looks a little less steep. So I'm going to run all the way back down, start my race over again,
and start running up that hill.
But it's a little less steep.
That's a great way to look at it. And then you start running that, this is too tough. Oh, wait, they just told me that hill over there is not as steep. I'm going to run back down that hill and start up the next hill.
That one has a paved road on it.
Yes.
Folks, look at this little bubble right here on your screen. This is where the financial institutions have most Americans trapped, right? This is the bubble where you only have made a little bit of progress towards your principal, but you've paid the most in your interest. This is where we start diverging from how a banker would look at your loan and how we would look at your loan, because they're looking at the life of the loan. They're always talking about the life of the loan, and it's only going to be 6% over the life of the loan. But if you look at what is the percentage you're paying over a short period of time, it's much, much, much higher, right? The ratio in this little period of time, and then you refinance and you start back over, and you constantly stay in this little bubble where you're always paying high interest and you always have low equity in your property. I mean, it never ends.
We got a great question here from Long's TX, or that's probably Long's, Texas. When finance companies agree to move a payment to the back end, do they cut back on the interest for that payment?
It depends. Here's what it depends. There are government regulated programs such as Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, and they'll be if there's some legislation passed that they can't charge it, like right now in this time frame, then no, they don't charge interest. But setting aside those government programs, because not everybody finances that way, your traditional lending, conventional lending, yeah, they're going to charge you interest.
Well, yeah, I mean, they just put it in the back. They're still going to get their money regardless. You know, they just may not charge you more. Some of them will be able to charge you more when it comes to like modifications, restructuring, certain things like that. What they do is when they extend the time, they extend how long it'll take for you to get to that backside. So,
but also you think about it, the way banks work, even Fannie and Freddie, they're always selling their paper all the time. So they're going to make that money back. And at the same time, even if they didn't, the odds are that you're going to refinance.
Mm-hmm.
So they say, oh, we don't get you this time, we'll get you later.
Well, it is, because that's happening right now, the forbearance and things like that, that all it is it's just extending your loan. So instead of, getting your loan's getting extended 3, 6, 12 months, from what it would have been paid off.
Look, let's go to 180 months. You're 15 years into the loan.
Mm-hmm.
You have clients that you work with who had this wonderful idea to refinance 15 years into the loan.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my goodness. I mean, at that point, you're really now starting to actually pick up steam. It's like, man, right. You already went through all that. Why would you give all of that up?
It's quite unfortunate. Because it's one of those things, they were sold on, it was looking at the 30-day period versus the 30-year period. That's really what it is. It'll benefit you in the very short term, but you lose significantly in the long term. Actually, I don't even think it benefits you in the short term, not that, but that's the way that they sell it to you.
Right. Well, if you live and your whole life revolves around a 30-day cycle, then, and you're not really thinking about the bigger picture, then that's really what they want you to do. They don't want you to worry about all that debt that you have at the back that you can pass on to your children, right? And don't worry about all that, right? Just concern yourself with the monthly payment. So, folks, we're just trying to show you where it's at. Now, where are you at? Like, let's go back to our example of the $200,000 mortgage where you're making the $1,200 payments. Where are you at in 5 years, right? In 5 years, if you made all your payments on time, you've paid $72,000 towards the bank. How much of that went towards interest and how much of that went towards principal? Well, these numbers are rounded, folks. Okay, they're not exact. It's not exact, but you paid a little bit more than $13,000 towards the principal, and you paid just under $59,000 in interest. So, folks, I look at that and I go, ouch. Think about that. $59,000 in interest, and someone's trying to tell me it's 6%. Wait a minute. Now, I want you to know that I was a solid C student, sometimes C plus. But I can tell you for a fact that I don't think that's 6%. It is 6% over the life of the loan, but definitely that is a much higher percentage. Folks, we can show you a better way. That's why you're tuning into this each and every week, right? Loving it, right? We're learning about budget, lines versus loans. Tomorrow we're going to learn about credit banking. But when we put all of this together, when we start figuring out how to put all these pieces together and how they work, what we get is the full map. And then we can start plotting our course towards financial freedom. And we know the route to take and how to avoid the pitfalls, and we can get to our goal, right? That is the whole purpose behind credit banking. But Mr. Fleming, before we get to our case study, I believe you have a public service announcement.
Yeah, let's do it. We got to talk about where this really fits into the equation, folks, just so you get an idea as to how credit banking fits into the big picture. It's really understanding the banking pillar of what we're talking about. There's taxes, there's banking, there's business, there's real estate. These are the pillars on which America is built on and how wealth is truly created. On the other days that we talk about business structure, Thursday night, we're going to be talking about business and real estate. During the lunches on Tuesday and Thursday, we talk about business, finance, and structuring of your business. But let's talk about what Wise Guys and Ties does. From a business perspective, we want to purchase vehicles to drive. And so Wise Guys and Ties purchases a vehicle, purchases a truck for $15,000. But why is that a benefit to the business? And if you personally want to use a vehicle, why is that a benefit to you? Well, as one of the owners, like for example, Joseph, his company, the J Team, that's a separate company that wants to use that vehicle to go make some money. So J Team sets up an agreement with Wise Guys and Ties to lease that vehicle, even though he's the manager on both companies. It's a separate entity. So even though he manages both, he can take advantage of each business. Leases that for $200 a month. And then the J Team runs out and makes $40,000 a year. Mm-hmm. And of course it uses that truck to make that income. Mm-hmm. Now he's going to have some expenses. He's going to have the lease payment, the insurance, the gas, the maintenance. That equates to $633 a month that the J Team is going to have to shovel out for the use of that vehicle. Man. But this is where it all starts to come to play. But how does that factor into what we're looking at? Well, on the tax side, when you start implementing business strategies into your taxes, there's two different ways you can deduct these. And if we're looking at the mileage deduction, the truck was used for $20,000 of business mileage. The government, by law, allows you to actually deduct 58 cents per mile you drive. Cha-ching. That is awesome. And it equates to $11,600 of tax deductions each year for driving. Now let's take a look at the cost of actually using that vehicle. That was $633 a month. That comes to $7,600 a month in expenses. Mm-hmm. Now, if we look at, how much does the actual vehicle cost to use versus the deduction that the government's going to give you, that equates to an extra $4,000 of deductions on top of what's already being deducted. So as you run around and drive all day long, you can still take some extra deductions, and all that income that you made is non-taxable. And so, of course, let's divide that by 12. That's an extra $330 a month that you were able to basically get for free from the government. I mean, that's like the government's paying you $333.
Who's got a better truck payment than I do?
Right? That's the power of understanding where this fits into the wealth creation process. And what Wise Guys and Ties in conjunction with the Velocity Channel are here to do is help you understand how all of this fits into the big puzzle of wealth creation.
Wait a minute. You showed tax savings on just the J Team. Any tax savings with the Wise Guys and Ties?
That whole $15,000 is a tax deduction. So when you hear that the wealthy don't pay taxes or anything like this, like Jeff Bezos is an excellent example about this. And I think this is something that most people don't understand. I see some videos on social media how we need to start a class war against Jeff Bezos. He's going to be the first, trillion, I don't know, what is it, the first trillionaire or something like that.
Good for him.
But see, the thing is, most people don't realize Jeff Bezos as a person only makes about $80,000 a year. That is what he makes. Everything else is owned by a business.
Yeah.
And that's what's so crazy to understand. The wealthiest person in the world in his name makes about $80,000 a year. That's what's nuts, because everything else is funneled through a business. So he doesn't pay any taxes. And all that money he made last year, Amazon used the tax code to their advantage, and they didn't pay any. They basically didn't have to pay any taxes because they had enough deductions. That's wild. All those prime vehicles you see around, the government will literally not tax you for building your business.
Because you're providing goods and services as well as jobs and taxable income to the government.
The only people that were really hiring hundreds of thousands of folks in this economic status. Now, I mean, whether you love it or hate it, if you follow the breadcrumbs of what the wealthy have done, that's what we're trying to help you do. Now, it doesn't have to be on that massive scale because, there's only one of those in the world. But do you need that much? What about if you just bring in $80,000 from your business? That's enough for many folks to live comfortably. Now, so let's take a look at real estate. So the whole idea behind owning real estate and rental real estate is creating cash flow. So we have our other businesses that create cash flow. And the truck needs to be used to check up on those properties. Sometimes there are quicker gains like a fix and flip. We also do wholesaling where you just simply can find a good deal and sell that off to somebody else.
We could have paid for the truck just out of our cash flow off of the properties if we wanted to.
Definitely could have. So on the real estate, you take a look at like an $85,000 or $58,000 profit there. When you start to combine the power of business and you look at the money that's coming off of the truck payments, that's $72,400.
Boy, our company's doing okay.
Then it starts to add up, and then these different revenue streams start to add up, and that's the power of business, is multiple revenue streams. And then you're looking at $135,000 right there, but then what is it actually getting taxed on? And that's the power, is when it comes down to it, it's very, very little that actually gets trickled down to the bottom line. So it's really only what was used as a necessity, and sometimes there's things just like food.
Well, all of these systems you leverage to your advantage. Where did you learn that?
So we learned this from a company called Renatus, which we are, we have a contract with Renatus, and it helps you understand how to keep your wealth and how to build your wealth. The essentials basically shows you the foundational step. And that's what we're going to be talking a lot about on Thursday, is the foundations of wealth creation through the essentials. And that's really powerful too. And they have different programs that range anywhere from $2,000 all the way up to $25,000. And that can scare folks too, because people are like, whoa, $25,000. Yeah, no. But
I mean, results aren't typical. I mean, people have had, I look at us and I see us as kind of like middle of the road compared. I mean, we've done better than some, but there's lots of that are doing way better than us, right?
And it's one of those things, like, for example, Joseph, you've been part of Renatus now for 6 years.
Yes.
And so when you got started with Renatus, you took their beginning courses that was $2,000.
Yes.
And then so as you progress through that, you start to gain your knowledge in creatively acquiring real estate. And then when you get to the point where you want to advance, then you can step it up a little bit, and then maybe if you want to start doing some fix and flips, and then you need to take some classes on that. Oh, and then some classes on that.
Well, the velocity banking, credit banking class that they have in there changed my life.
It did.
Absolutely.
And that's the great thing, is it's all a tax write-off as well.
Oh, and tax and legal day 1 and 2. And then raising money through self-directed IRAs.
It's powerful stuff, folks, and we're really helping you folks understand where this fits into the entire equation, because some of you are sitting here watching this, you're loving it, and you just love plugging in. But there's also some of you that are looking to take this and run with it to the next level. And so if you're really looking for a way to really accelerate that gas pedal, and you're like, hey, I just can't get enough on once a week from this. I need to go harder, faster, because I'm running out of time for retirement, or hey, I lost a job and it's time to really move forward with the dreams and creation. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to help you accelerate your dreams. But we can't help you if you don't know what we have to offer you.
That's true. Ray, I never get tired of seeing that. I know we go over that each and every week, but I love it.
It's great stuff.
It never gets old for me because, well, I guess I'm a little biased because it's what we do, but I love it. Folks, best time of the week, best time of the night, our case study. Here's each and every week we go over the numbers of different folks that we're working with, and we're looking at actual real life numbers of people who are trying to implement this strategy. And so we need to just at this point, training's over. I mean, the learning never stops. I mean, let's get that straight. Learning never stops. But at this point, this is collaborative. This is the mastermind, right? This is where we work together. This is where we're seeking your feedback. And what we want to do is we want to look at these numbers and then just figure out, knowing what we've learned each and every week, because we've been doing this now for 23 weeks, we should have a lot of participation with a lot of folks having a good idea of what we should do. So let's take a look. We're dealing with this. I like this situation because this is where I think a lot of folks are at. Let's take a look. Okay. Income is $3,200. Expenses, $3,150. Available credit, $63,000. Credit balance, $8,700. Interest rate on the credit, 21.5%. Now, this is one of three loans. The largest loan is $152,417.34. That was the original loan. Current balance on the loan is $149,000, $149,600.71. That monthly principal and interest payment, $783.64. Term is 30 years, also known as 360 months, right? And then we have, it originated on March 1st of 2019 at an interest rate of 4.625%. And the total payment, though, is $1,230. Why is that, Ray? Principal and interest is only $783. Why is the payment more than that?
Well, every mortgage payment, the bank always wants to protect their investment. Mm-hmm. And so they're going to make sure that they're paying for the taxes and the insurance, which is the only thing that really falls in front of everything is the taxes. We always talk about how the mortgage is the first lien holder, but actually it's the taxes that has the first right to that property.
Mm-hmm. And when we talk about, the interest, or not the insurance, a lot of times all we're talking about is the mortgage insurance, just insuring the bank's investment. Mm-hmm. That's not even your homeowner's insurance. Sometimes, HOA, sometimes it includes all of it, but sometimes it's just the mortgage interest until you have 20 or 30% equity in the
mortgage insurance. Mortgage insurance. Yeah.
So we're looking at these numbers. Let's look at the situation. Spouse lost job. Current income paid weekly at $800 after taxes. They also have two car loans. Loan number one, $20,331.61 with a $398 monthly payment. Second car loan is $7,876.92 with a $181 monthly payment. And then there are 4 credit cards and a personal line of credit. $21,000 limit here, $20,000 limit, $10,000 limit here. This one has a $6,400 balance. We have a $7,000 limit over here with a $2,300 balance on it over here. We have a $5,000 personal line of credit as well with zero balance. So we scroll up, we have a lot of available credit. So think about this. This family, this two-income family, must have had a greater income, but just recently, now they're down to a much smaller income, just barely enough to make the payments. Somebody like this is, how do we get people all the time? Well, you show these examples where you have $2,000, $4,000 in cash flow. What about for the person who's living paycheck to paycheck, has maybe $50 of cash flow?
Well, I mean, that's one of the biggest issues we got to address first, is we got to bring in some more cash flow. We got to increase the cash flow. And so we'll look at that from both sides of reducing expenses or increasing income, for sure. In this case, with the spouse losing the job, we got to increase the income.
Am I sharing my screen?
You know what? That's a great question.
Folks, I don't know if I'm sharing my screen. If I'm not, here. If I wasn't sharing my screen, I apologize. Man, people, you gotta let me know. I mean, I know I'm fun to look at. That's okay. But sometimes, this.
There we go. We're on the master.
Good. All righty then. So now we're back. Now you guys can see.
Thank you, Dale. Okay.
So here we are. So everybody can see now what's going on. So we just went over all of these numbers here. This is the mastermind, folks. This is where we're at. So here's what we need to do. We have to mastermind. We have to figure out, what are we going to do with this? All right. A couple of things that I'm sure that you already know. We need to figure out, what is our cash flow? Do we have any cash flow? Right?
This one's easy.
Right? We need to figure out, do we have any monthly cash flow? We also need to figure out what our utilization is. Now, why is figuring out our utilization important, Mr. Fleming?
It's very important, because that is one of the main factors in determining how we're going to proceed with the credit banking strategy. We need to see where you're currently at and the current health of your existing credit lines. I think that's the best way to put it. The current health status.
I agree. So each and every week, when we look at this, we look at cash flow, utilization, debt efficiency. And so folks, we're opening this up to you. What would you do? What should we do in this situation? $3,200 a month in income, $3,150 in monthly expenses. Here's all the information that you need. Here's, loan and debt information. We go back to the beginning, the three things we need. Does this person have debt?
Yes.
Does this person have access to some kind of line of credit or credit card?
Yes.
Does this person have monthly cash flow?
Very little.
What's the cash flow?
Anybody you want to shout out what the cash flow is? There we go, $50.
Good job, Aaron. All right, $50. Okay, so we have $50 of cash flow. What's our utilization at? Does anybody know how to figure out utilization? How would we figure out utilization?
Utilization, we take all right, so David says 13.8 needs to be, so Roger says, hey Roger, how you doing, buddy?
Roger says, hey, good to see you, buddy.
Roger says under 30%.
Oops. Yeah.
And then Aaron says available credit divided by the balance. Perfect.
So we're at 14% utilization.
There you go. We just rounded up. But good work, Dave.
Debt efficiency. What is the purpose of debt efficiency?
Debt efficiency. So debt efficiency will help us determine which debt we are going to start with.
Okay, which debt do we need to pay off first? I got it. Okay, so let's take this amount right here. And we take our balance and we divide it by our monthly payment, 1,230. What is the debt efficiency? Anyone? Anyone got a calculator?
Bueller.
People are like, Joseph, it's late. Just do it for me. I don't want to think. It's too hard. All right. It's not $121. It's 1.21. It's a ratio. So it's 1 to 1.63. But is that a good debt efficiency? All right, let's take a look here. Then we look at some of our other things. Look at this here. Let us figure out the debt efficiency here.
$51. Interesting. Now, so on the debt efficiency, the closer we are to zero, the less efficient it is, or the least. We want it as high as possible. You want your debt efficiency number as high as possible. So anything going over 100 is good. Anything closer to, as you get closer to zero, the worse it is. Yikes.
You know what I don't know? I don't know what the monthly payments are on these.
Don't have, that's right. We don't know the monthly payments. If you could probably figure them out though. Let's see if we got 0%,
I could figure out interest.
Roughly. I mean, so they're going to be looking at like a point, in the beginning, it's like a 2% payment.
Anyway, let's just look at the 3 loans right now.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So Ray was right. Debt efficiency tells us how efficient our money is at paying down the amount of money that we owe. The lower the number, the more inefficient the debt is. So as you look at car loan number 2, it's at 42.18. So anything that's right around 50, that's something that you could potentially refinance. So the only time that we ever look to actually do a refinance, because there's a time and a place for it. It's when our debt efficiency is right around 50%. Right? If we're well below 50%, if we're headed into single digits, we need to pay that off immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the other thing is anything over 100 is considered efficient. It's considered good debt. It's very affordable. It means you can hold on to this debt for a long time. And the benefits of this is you're getting positive payment history, growing your credit score, all these different things that happen. So sometimes people look at, I want to pay off the largest one first. But is the largest one actually costing you the most money? This is the most inefficient use of the money in this debt, car loan number 2. So that's what needs to really be paid off first. So we'll show you another good game that we know. All right, so now you guys see, this is kind of how we first start evaluating things. We haven't even made any decisions yet what we're going to do. We try to make we let debt efficiency guide us. But as I look at this, anybody have any thoughts? What would you do looking at this situation? What would you do?
So we don't have a lot of cash flow.
No.
We haven't utilized a lot of credit, which is good. We're in the, beginning time of the loan. So, I mean, it seems like they're on a really good track there. You got had all this going for you, but then life happens.
So I'm opening up to you, my folks in the Mastermind. Let's talk to you. Aaron, Brian, Dale, Dexter, JT, Roger, Santiago, Sherry, I'm talking to all of you. Type in, give us some ideas. There's no wrong answers, unless you get it wrong, and I'll tell you. I'm just kidding. What we do? Okay, Roger says, scroll down, please. All right, let's scroll down for Roger. Aaron wants us to zoom out. Okay, well, I want you to know that I like to zoom out too, but then I will find people saying, zoom in, I can't read it. So you guys need to make up your mind, right? Who wants us to zoom in? Who wants us to zoom out? Because you still need to be able to read it. All right.
So lots of access to credit. So right there, we got $63,000 of available credit. But do we just start racking stuff up on the debt? Let's see. Use the available credit to pay down everything on the page that we can't read. There you go. Sell a car. Right? Hey, that's always an option.
Right? I didn't think about that. That's a good one. Let's write up some of the ideas here. So we got sell a car, right? I mean, if we don't have two jobs, what let's sell a car, right? I mean, that is a good option, because if you have a non-performing asset, let's get rid of it and use it to pay off a liability and free up some cash flow. All right, sell a car. I like that as an option. Okay, what else? What else do we need to do? All right.
Well, on that line of cars, what else could we do with that car? Anybody have any other ideas as far as what could we do with those vehicles?
Oh yeah, there are a lot of ideas.
Could refinance.
You know what? We actually are in a position, when you look at the debt efficiency, where it wouldn't be a bad idea. So we could refinance the car. And we could also spell refinance correctly. That would be good too. You could refinance the car. All right. This is good.
Long says, what about opening another line of credit?
Open another line of credit. Open another line of credit. Now, why? We have $63,000 in available credit. I mean,
that's a lot of credit to have in the personal side.
But I mean, yeah, we could open up another line of credit, but we need to have a plan for what we're going to do with that. What else? Don't be shy. Let me give you a little bit of a hint. All right. Here's when I say hint, let me tell you how I think about things. I always, no matter what, when I'm looking at finances, when people show this, how can we increase cash flow? How can we increase the income? I'd always think about what are other ways to boost the income. All right. That's how I think about things. I mean, all these other things are great ideas too. So we have Dale says, how about trying to work with the credit companies to help because of job loss? So yeah, I mean, that's always, you could negotiate, a deferment. I didn't spell that right. Deferment or a forbearance.
Yeah. On those car loans, they could, possibly have some type of restructuring.
I think that's a great idea, Dale. Good job. I mean, I think about that too. That's one of my top 10 things that I like to do, because everything's negotiable, right? Everything. Good. I like it. All right, so Aaron says use multiple credit cards for velocity banking seems confusing. Advisable to use multiple credit cards or just one for velocity banking? So it's more of a question. Well, so we talked about in the beginning, how do we use credit banking, this velocity banking strategy? We need debt, we need cash flow, we need a line of credit. We have debt, we have credit, we don't really have a lot of cash flow. Okay, so we could implement this strategy using $50 of cash flow. That's we can work through the numbers that way. But to me, I think it would be better to figure out how do we increase that cash flow. There's got to be ways where we could, within the next 30 days, increase that cash flow. There are a lot of options actually in doing that. Hey, Dale, yes. That's what I'm talking about, buddy. You and I are like thinking the same way. I'm immediately thinking to myself, right here, here's what Dale spotted that I spotted. Spouse lost job. Boom. Well, in today's climate, there's not only unemployment that you get through the state, but there's like a $600 a week bonus, right?
Insane.
I mean,
a ridiculous amount flowing in from unemployment that's never been seen before.
We should be boosting this income right away with some unemployment. And so if it hasn't been filed for, yeah, that needs to happen, of course. Let's see here. Roger says, could cause credit cards to lower your available credit limit by making your utilization rate go.
If you were to start piling stuff onto those lines.
Oh, he was answering Aaron. Right. So yeah, if we transferred all of this debt into the lines of credit, that's just say the boat's leaking, and so I pull water out of this side of the boat and throw it over into that side of the boat.
Which sometimes does make sense, but in this case, we might not want to do that yet.
Okay. All right. So I'm liking that. So right here, unemployment addresses right here our cash flow issue, right? Selling a car, that addresses a cash flow issue, because if we could sell one of these cars and pay for what's owed on it, like we could pay, if this car pays it off, that could free up $184 of cash flow just by selling it. Unemployment, based off of numbers that I'm basically looking at, could be, let's say conservatively, that could be 2,800 to 3,000, even more. It just depends, but it could be an extra $3,000. I mean, that would be a whole lot of extra cash flow right off the bat.
Oh, excellent question. So Roger is saying we don't know if that income includes unemployment. Yes, we do know.
We do know.
We did not put it on there, but yes, that income does not include.
The income we see is just
unemployment.
The income is paid weekly, $800 after taxes currently. So there's one income. One spouse lost a job. One spouse is earning $800 a week. So good question. Good question.
What else? There's some other stuff, folks. What are we thinking about here? Anybody got some ideas on how to increase the cash flow with what tools and resources they already currently have? I mean, I'm seeing a few here. I definitely am. And I just got another one that we didn't even talk about earlier.
What? Oh, hey, Dale. Boom. Dale just
got one.
All right, look at this. Look at this. I came up with this one too. Dale and I are on the same page. Uber Eats. Now, how does that affect unemployment?
That's a great question.
You got to look at that. But if you did Uber Eats, if you did a few other things, unemployment, money versus unemployment versus money that you are bringing in that you control. Because people are like, oh, go for the unemployment. That's like it's free money, but you're not in control of that. That spigot could be turned off.
Right. Let's fast forward a little bit, because what happens when that does get cut off?
And then you don't have any job experience.
So now we're on the right track. Okay, let's start. What can we think outside the box? Uber Eats is an option. What else is there? What else could we do with that car? Ooh, couple things.
So Uber Eats is a way for me to use the car.
There you go. Lease out the car.
Oh, Dale.
Now,
Yeah.
so there's a couple different ways. You could have, I mean, yeah, you could rent out the car. Now, when you say lease out, I'm thinking rent it out through Turo, you know, online, you know, the Airbnb for your vehicle, basically.
Yeah.
You could work out some deal with somebody who does Uber Eats or who does Uber.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So going along those lines there.
If you did, let's say you rented your car out a couple weekends a month and you're charging $50 a day, that could be right there, $300.
Mm-hmm.
That's $300 extra dollars. If you're also working Uber Eats, I mean, we have a lot of clients that do Uber Eats. So I happen to know that working about 15 to 20 hours a week, just during the meal times, lunchtime and evening meal times throughout the week, earn yourself an extra $500 a week. I mean, that's $2,000. Do a little Turo on the side, you're now at $2,300. But while it might not be as much as unemployment, it's more or less money that you can control, right? Because
That's right.
you can work even more. I mean, if we have one spouse that lost the job, they could do Uber Eats for breakfast, they could do Uber Eats for lunch, they could do Uber Eats for dinner, late night snack, right? What about 11 C's? Dinner, supper, afternoon tea, right? Hopefully you live near some hobbits because then they'll want to eat all the time. So I like where we're going, okay? Because this is how I think about things. How do we increase the cash flow? So what if right off the bat, this income that we're looking at, we were able to supplement, let's be conservative now. Let's say we can supplement this with an extra $2,000, right? Now we're at $2,000 or $5,200 in income with only $3,150 in expenses. So then we put our $2,000 here, right? So when somebody's like, oh, I don't make enough money in a paycheck to paycheck, right? We look at things, well, what can we sell? Can we refinance? Can we negotiate, right? What about, in this case, we lost a job, so perhaps unemployment. Unemployment isn't available to everybody depending on what kind of job that was lost. So if that's not available, Uber Eats, rent and lease out the car, right? We're looking at a lot of great options here. Did you say you had another one?
Yeah. I look at, you know, potentially money lending just because of my network that I'm part of.
Oh, with the line of credit.
Line of credit, lending out money.
Because look at down here. You have a 0% interest rate here, and you have a 0% interest rate here.
You could invest into a business.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I know that there were some gyms, some smaller gyms that, you know, during the shutdown now in Arizona, we're back up and running. You know, gyms are open, everything is back up for the most part operating right now. But you know, there was a lot of folks that could not get those business loans, you know, the EIDL, the PPP, and they're literally shutting their doors. And so they were looking for private sector funds. Now, of course, I don't recommend that without having the knowledge how to do it, but along those lines is you could start a business, you know, renting out a room.
Rent out room. I like that, Dale, but in the current situation, people, unless you're like hermetically sealed the room, you know, and everybody's wearing masks, some people might feel like, you know, you've got the cooties. I don't think, Dale, that you have the cooties though, but I'm just saying.
Longs was saying you could get a HELOC, invest in some assets. The only issue we're going to have when it comes into getting a HELOC is our debt to income ratios, because now since we only have the 3,200 and we have those 2 car loans and the mortgage, we're not going to qualify to get a HELOC.
Yeah, if I told you the ARV of this house that they're living in is $250,000, right? And they only owe $149,000. You're saying, what? You're looking at like that's, or it's not 250, it's 220. I'm sorry, 220.
But we talk a lot about, people that could want to start businesses, and they're always looking for a credit partner or somebody to invest some capital with. I know in this situation.
Oh, dude, you just reminded me of my favorite thing.
Yeah. Start a business.
Do you have the credit right there to start a business?
Absolutely.
Hey, there is a great business opportunity.
Hey, and we're going to start talking about this more because I see that there's a huge need for this. Now, a lot of things, Joseph and I, we partake in, we do our own real estate, we do our own stuff, but also when you guys have needs, we also take place in referral businesses, in affiliate marketing. It's kind of refer a friend type situations, but we're going to start discussing a business model for if you're looking for a side hustle, a $200 a year business.
Less than $200.
Less than $200. A business you can start for less than $200 a year, and it could pay you anywhere from $300 to $3,000 per referral. And so we're looking at up to potentially 11,000 and something per referrals. So we're gonna have that.
No, Ray. Are you just saying something that's out there, or are you? Have you done this yourself?
I on this referral plan, I've made over $10,000 a month, and that's just we're talking just a referral to another business. Joseph has made over $1,000 or $10,000 a month in this referral plan. That's in a month. Now, what if you just did that in a year? Could that change your life? What if you did that? What if you just made an extra $1,000 off that? So just to kind of put that out there, that we're going to slowly start letting you know about some new opportunities that we've been working on, and how, if you're looking for a side hustle and a way to bring in some extra cash flow right now, we got some really cool stuff on the horizon for you.
Absolutely. All right. So Dexter says, change my W-4 to 9, which gave me $800 pay raise per month. Yeah. Perfect. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Restructuring how you get paid.
Right. Change your deductions. Right. If you add more deductions into your W-4, or is it W-4, W-9? W-4. If you change those deductions, you keep more of what you make. But and people have warned you, you might have to pay taxes at the end of the year. But I think to myself, I think I could spend my money better than the government. I just think that way. I mean, maybe you don't think that way. Maybe you don't think I can spend the money better than government, but I can, and I do. And you can too, and should. But yes, Dexter, double fist bump for that one. I love it. Right? Look, okay, so folks, this is really what the Mastermind's doing. We go over how to use the velocity banking strategy each and every week. So for those who are tuning in the first time, you're like, you guys aren't even doing anything. What's this velocity banking, credit banking? What is this? I'm not seeing anything. Folks, we didn't even really get into that today. We're just looking for ways to increase the cash flow, because each scenario that we deal with each and every week presents us with some unique challenges. And so this time, what if you don't have any cash flow? How do you create cash flow? Look at all of these things we came up with. This is the power of a mastermind. Yeah. So we were just looking at ways to increase the income.
Long says grant money too.
There is grant money out there. Absolutely. Yeah. And then Roger's starting to go into the other side of it. So like I said, I always look at cash flow, but then let's look at our expenses. What are duplications? Like do
subscriptions, all that stuff.
Exactly.
Turn off the Netflix. One, because Netflix is just turning into something wrong. But Hulu, Amazon Prime, and plug into YouTube.
Yeah, I love when I find a new show and then we just totally veg out on it and we get no work done and we begin to lose money and you're like, Joseph, get to work. I'm like, no, I gotta go
Sell
watch
the
more.
Xbox.
Amen.
Or if you really need therapy, just take the Xbox outside and, well, we're not going to say beat it up, just sell it.
But yes, so look at your income. Second, look at your expenses. And there's a lot of ways that you can free up some extra cash flow. But now when we start looking at $2,500 of cash flow that we're freeing up, now look at this, right? This was the debt we need to pay off first. So let's take that $7,876.92, right? Let's look at that. And then what if we divide that now by our cash flow? What do we get, right? That's paid off in 4 months. That's what that number means here, right? 4 months. In 4 months, okay, so we're working, we're changing, we're getting unemployment, or if we don't, we started Uber, or we started a referral business, or we're doing short-term money lending. Tell you what, right here, I gotta highlight that one. I really like that one a lot. Change your deductions. That can free up money. Man, guys, I like a lot of these. The ones that I'm highlighting in blue are the ones that I already thought of. So that all that means is that you guys are thinking like me. The other ones, like I didn't think of renting out a room. That's a good one. Grant money, never even thought of that. I should have thought of negotiation. I always look to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like the negotiator. I'm the closer. I don't know why I didn't think of that. That was a good one. All of these, refinance, open another line of credit, right? If you have a plan to get 0% interest and you can move some of the other stuff that you're paying higher interest rates on, and that's your way of refinancing. Yeah, I see that. I can see how that works. So, but as soon in 4 months, this debt is gone. So what do we do with this 184? What happens to the 184 here, folks? What happens? What do we do? Anybody tell me? Bueller?
That's cash flow.
Yeah, that's cash flow. Absolutely.
There you go. Yeah.
So we go
Goes
over
in there
here.
and start applying to that debt, Roger.
Boom. And we put 184 and oops. No, come on. Come on. Oh, that's because look over here. I didn't separate from that number.
There we go. Perfect. Right?
Yes.
And then, boom. There you go.
Boom.
That's right, Lungs. Cash flow.
So now we go to our next inefficient loan. And we're going to pay this. We're going to pay this sucker off. 20331. Now it's going to be slightly lower than this, but just for the sake of time, let's put in our 2234, right? Oops. What are we going to get? No, I did that wrong. Okay. There we go. No, I have an addition. What am I doing?
Hey, Aaron, good to see you on. We'll see you next time for sure, buddy.
All right, look at that. We're paying that off in 10 months. 9 months if we make a little extra payment there. Yeah, paying that off in 9 months. Look at that. 4 months took care of the first car loan. 9 months took off over the last one. So we're just over 1 year into this.
Mm-hmm.
And we've paid off both of the car loans.
Nice.
That's how it works. So then we had a $398 payment here, right? Look, there's 60 months left on that. 36 months left on this. You see the power now of credit banking? We're saving money, we're paying this off faster, and we're increasing our cash flow. All we're doing is running all of our income and our expenses through our lines of credit and then paying them down. It's awesome. So we take a big chunk out of the debt and then sweep it down.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So this is, now we're adding here what was it, 398? Yeah. Oops. Come on now. Work with me. All right. Oh, I messed that up again. Why, oh, why, oh, why? Let's try that again. Let's try it again. 2000. Look at that. Oh, and you know what? What we're also not showing here is that these expenses are going down, right? Look at that. Expenses are going down. That's what the expenses went to after the first car was paid off. But then when we paid off the next car, right? We're decreasing those expenses. Loving it. Now we've got $2,632 of cash flow. What happens when we apply that to this? Right? Well, let's plug everything into our handy dandy credit banking calculator. All right, folks, this is so much fun. We have $149,600.71.
Yep. Okay, we can see that.
All right, our interest rate 4.625. In our term, well, we had 360 months and we've paid for 14 months of it. So there's 346 months left. So 346 months left. Boom. Hey, look at that. It says the payment should be $783.64. And what does it say up here?
$783.64.
Loving it. Okay. Now let's go over here. Oh, wait a minute. There we go. And we have to put in, so we're at 21.5% interest rate on our credit card. And our income is at $5,200. Our expenses have gone down to $2,568. And boom, we have freed up $2,632. What did we free up here? It's amazing when math works. I love it. Okay, let's take a look. How did we do? How did we do? So if you stay the course, the blue line shows, what if you don't do anything? What if you just make all your minimum payments over the next 28.83 years, right? Well, that's what that looks like. All right, that's the blue line. This orange line. What if we were able to take just $500 every month, make an extra principal only payment, right? Look at how much that shaves off, right? That shaves off 15 years, over 15 years.
Wow.
Bam. Loving it. But then look at this. What happens when we start using this green one? This is our credit banking strategy. Look at this. This green line right here. The reason why it zigzags like this is because we're putting all of our, every month we put our income, or we put all of our expenses and we put our income. And because we have cash flow, the speed at which every time we put debt onto the card.
They just bought this house. This house they haven't even been in here, what, 2 years?
14 months.
14 months, barely a year. And now they're looking at less than 60, not even 5.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll be paid off.
And they're going to save over $80,000 in interest. $80,000. And that's if they implement what, see, we got here because of the time that we spent here, right? If we just, people, I can't stress this enough. How many people come to us and say, this doesn't work? You guys show all these great examples, but what about somebody who's living paycheck to paycheck? I don't have any cash flow. Well, folks, look at what the Mastermind came up with today. Sell a car, refinance a car, open another line of credit, negotiate deferment or forbearance on your loan, get unemployment, work for Uber Eats, lease or rent out your car, short-term money lending on your lines of credit, rent out a room, start a referral business, change your deductions, apply for grant money. I mean, all of those things can, I mean, and I think we're being conservative here by saying 2,000. I mean, we could easily generate $5,000 or $10,000 if we implemented a lot of these all together.
I know some folks that would have no problem doing this, but I also know some folks that have literally, are up in age and they have degrees, and they literally have told me it's beneath them to go do Uber Eats. And so in exchange, they, did a reverse mortgage or something like that. But I'm like, see, this is the thing is, if you are more worried about what other folks think, then you're going to probably do what most people do. But if you do what most people won't, you will be able to live like they won't.
Like they can't.
Like they can't.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's really powerful. And I understood that from a long, I understood that a little while ago that, I will take the small sacrifice of, maybe looking like I'm maybe working too hard or anything like that to basically, imagine that feeling of having your house paid off in 5 years in the midst of an economic downturn. What is that powerful story to show your children? Like, look, your mom and I got this house paid off when your mom lost her job, and it was an economic, uncertainty, and we still managed to get our 30-year mortgage paid off in 6 years.
Yeah, talking about, and
the cars. We forgot about that too.
You say mom, it could have been dad, right? Who knows who it was, but somebody lost their job, and then all of a sudden you're like, what are we going to do? Most people quit, give up. No, that's when we reinvented ourselves. That's when we totally reinvented ourselves. That's when we started a business. That's when we began to do credit banking, business credit. I should have put that on the list. Why didn't I put that on the list?
There's a lot of fear right now, folks, and I'm going to tell you, this was delicious coffee. I finished this, but see, that's the thing is I've talked about this before. The cup is empty. Somebody could look at that and say, look, right now it's just, I have no more coffee. But the thing is, it's refillable, and you can fill it up with whatever you want. It doesn't even have to be coffee. If you think outside the box, you could put soda, water, whatever. But that's the power, is thinking outside the box, thinking outside the bank, to really make your dreams come true, because you're the only one that's going to be able to make that happen.
Amen. All right, we're going to close it up here, folks. I want to thank you so much for being a part of tonight's Credit Banking Mastermind number 23. Hey, if you want to be a part of this, if you're like, hey, I love that, I would love for you guys to mastermind my finances, go to wiseguysandties.com/credit-banking for the Tuesday nights webinars. They start at 8 p.m. Central Time. Put in your name, your email, your phone number, and we don't give that information out to anybody. We don't sell it, and we only contact you if you want us to. But you need to make sure you check mark the 4 boxes so you hold us harmless, right? Because you do your own due diligence. We share this information with you. But then scroll down on the form, and you can put in your own numbers. And when you do, we can also meet and have a 30-minute free one-on-one consultation. But when we put those numbers into the mastermind, we take out your information, we take out the names of banks or specific cards. We just share the raw numbers, and you can see how powerful was that tonight. I think that was powerful, because we get a lot of people who are like, I don't have any money. I don't have any cash flow. I can't do it. It doesn't work. And they kind of get cynical. Oh, it would be nice if I could have $2,000 of cash flow. It's like, you could have $2,000 of cash flow. We looked tonight at all the different ways that we could increase income. And we only briefly talked about expenses, but there's a lot of ways we could have reduced expenses or deferred. Well, we did talk about deferring payments. So that we did talk a little bit about how to change your expenses. Folks, jump in, become a part of this mastermind. The only way you're going to do this, you got to move it from an academic knowledge to application. You got to get out there and do it. That's what this mastermind is for. It's not just to sit around and talk and think about in theory how nice this is, but let's actually put in the numbers. Let's figure out how to do this, and let's do it together. With that being said, our contact information is on the screen. If you want more information on how to implement these credit banking strategies. If you'd like to see how we also accelerate that through advanced credit banking strategies when we combine it with business credit, that's very important strategy because we can use business credit for a lot of things, for creating new lines of income, streams of income. We can use it to find more money. We can use it to consolidate debt. Business credit is awesome. So first of all, we want you to reach out to us because we know that it's a bit challenging out there right now, and you can feel like you're all alone, but you're not all alone. We're in this together. And that's the beauty of this mastermind. Each and every week we get together and we want to give you hope. Everybody else out there seems to be peddling in fear right now. And there's so many symbols of fear and hatred and all these things. We want to work with hope. We want to go because, you know, there is a plan for you. There is a plan for you, hope for you, and a future for you. You can find that when you plug in with the wise guys and ties. All right. Thank you so much for spending your evening with us. We love you. On behalf of myself, Joseph Smith, this is Ray Fleming.
Good night.
And God bless, folks.